Good afternoon and welcome to today's Thought Leaders series, the ultimate cybersecurity plan for engineers. My name is Amanda and I'll be your host for today. Engineers Australia would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the country throughout Australia and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and community. We pay respects to them, their cultures and to elders past and present. Today's webinar is being supported by Engineers Australia's industry partner, CyberX. Cybersecurity countermeasures like staff training, email screening, endpoint protection, patch management, and the like are all worth doing and will reduce the risk of a ransomware attack. A trusted and flexible backup system is an insurance policy for recovering data and resuming operations if all else fails. CyberX backup and replication provides reliable ransomware protection for backups stored locally and in the cloud. Today, we will hear from our cybersecurity expert, Vaughan and Wickham, followed by a live audience Q&A, and encourage you to send your questions through to our speakers via the chat box. And I'd like to welcome our speaker, Vaughan Wickham, co-founder, Disaster Recovery by CyberX. Vaughan protects small and medium-sized businesses from ransomware attacks by deploying best practice cybersecurity solutions. For over 25 years, Vaughan has been a trusted IT network administrator for Australian businesses that need a reliable and results-focused technical expertise. Specialising in supporting organisations with 20 to 500 users, Vaughan provides practical solutions in a world with ever-complex cyber security risks. Please welcome Vaughan Wickham.
Hello. I've been working as a computer network admin with an IT service provider for the past 25 years. Over that time, I've been exposed to many computer networks and applications, some that have been excellent and some that have had room for improvement. Today, I'm going to share with you some key learnings with respect to cybersecurity. Did you know that the cost of cybercrime in Australia was $29 billion in 2020? The right cybersecurity plan requires a comprehensive approach across 9 key areas. Today, I'll explain what these areas are, some common mistakes, and how to move towards best practice and peace of mind. Our plan will help protect your organisation from a ransomware attack. Two of the most common techniques that the black hats, the hackers, use to target an organisation are 1, phishing or scam emails. The black hats will send emails to staff in your organisation that will either contain links to malicious websites or attachments that contain malware. Or the second approach is that the black hats will try and get staff to visit a malicious website when staff are using their web browser. For instance, by sharing links to malicious websites on social media. In either case, if the malware is not detected, this will allow the black hats to infect computers on your network. Once the black hats have access to a computer on your network, then eventually they may be able to launch a ransomware attack, as you will see later. Some key findings from the Australian Cybersecurity Centre Annual Cyber Threat Report in 2023. There were nearly 94,000 cybercrime reports. That's up 23% on 2022. And on average, that's a report every 6 minutes. The average cost of cybercrime per report for small business was $46,000, and for medium business, $97,000. The top 3 cybercrime types for business were email compromise, business email compromise, and online banking fraud. 10% of all incidents responded to included ransomware. Today, I'll explain how you can take action to block most malicious emails before they even reach your staff's email inbox. Protect your staff from accidentally visiting malicious websites. and determine if your backup solution is ransomware safe and whether it will really protect your data in the event of a cyber attack. As we go through today's session, if you have any questions, please make notes as you watch the session. At the end of the webinar, there will be a Q&A session where you can ask about any questions that you have. We will now examine the 9 keys of cybersecurity. The first area is staff training. Staff training looks at a platform to deliver ongoing training and testing of staff, rather than a one-off training session that is often soon forgotten, with staff going back to their old ways after a couple of weeks. Training staff to be aware of the risks, to understand what to look out for and how to respond. Using ongoing phishing, that's scam emails, and training campaigns will add another layer of security to your organisation. And staff will often be your last line of defence. Email screening. Many scam attacks are attempted via email. The Australian Cybersecurity Centre reports email compromise as one of the top 3 cybercrime types for business. Therefore, it is essential to block as many of these emails as possible before they are delivered to staff. If scam emails never reach the inbox of your staff, then you don't even have to rely on staff making the right choices. Email screening reduces the risk of a cyber breach by preventing malicious emails from being delivered to your staff's inbox. Similarly, web screening reduces the risk of a cyber breach by preventing users from accidentally visiting malicious websites when using their web browser. A ransomware-safe backup system. Your backup system is your insurance policy. In a worst-case scenario, if you do experience a cyber attack, say a ransomware attack, if your backups remain uncompromised, while the attack will still be a significant disruption, it won't become a disaster. If your backups remain intact, you will be able to recover your data without having to consider paying a ransom. We look at the CyberX backup system and identify the key features that you need to look for in a ransomware-safe backup system. Password management. The 2 most common mistakes that people make in relation to passwords are 1, using the same or a similar password across multiple sites, or 2, storing their passwords in Word, Excel, or some other insecure method. We show you how to install and use a free password manager. The password manager enables you to easily use a strong and unique password for every site and to store your passwords securely. Patch management. Patch management is the process of applying updates to software to correct errors in the software. Applying software updates in a regular and timely manner to address security vulnerabilities will reduce an organization's security risk. We show you how to implement a patch management solution. The solution, Action 1, is free if you have less than 100 endpoints and is reasonably priced for endpoints above the 100 endpoint limit. Two-factor authentication. Two-factor authentication is a second independent method of confirming your login authentication. The primary method will typically be the password for the account. The second method can be an app on your phone, an SMS text to your phone, or an email message with a code. We show you how to implement two-factor authentication using a free app on your phone. Two-factor authentication is particularly important for high-value services, like your email account, which could be used for identity theft, and for services like online banking. Least privilege access. The principle of least privilege access is to have sufficient privileges to complete the tasks that you need to perform, but no more. In other words, that you have just enough system access to get the job done. We demonstrate the least privilege principle with hands-on examples using standard out-of-the-box Microsoft Windows features. Lockdown of externally accessible servers. We consider the following scenarios. On-premise servers that are accessible from the internet, for example, web servers and FTP servers. We also look at terminal servers, but as there are some key differences between terminal servers and web servers, we consider terminal servers separately. And then we look at the other side of the terminal server, the users that are working from home. Here is a summary of the 9 keys of cybersecurity. We will now look at these areas in more detail. I'm now going to show a short video that provides an overview of ransomware and explains the 2 types of ransomware attacks. There might be a short test later, so please keep an eye out for the 2 types of ransomware attacks.
How much is your organization's data and reputation worth? Are you 100% sure that your backups are safe from the latest ransomware attacks? A data breach or ransomware attack can cripple your business and result in long-term damage to your company's brand and reputation. Did you know that the cost of cybercrime alone in Australia was $29 billion in 2020? A survey undertaken by the Australian Cyber Security Centre found that 62% of the 1,762 small businesses that responded have been a victim of cybercrime. The cost of remediating a ransomware attack will always be significant, therefore it is worth spending time to ensure that you have the defences in place to prevent an attack or to mitigate data loss, in the event that your defences are breached. What is ransomware? Ransomware is a piece of malicious software that, once executed, blocks access to the contents of files, typically documents and data files, by encrypting the files. In order to regain access to your documents, a sum of money must be paid to the attacker, a ransom. If you pay the ransom, then the attackers promise, although in some cases they don't deliver, to provide you with a key and software that you can use to unencrypt your data. Some of the ransoms that have been demanded have been well in excess of $100K. That kind of outlay can put an SME out of business, and that is exactly what has happened to some SMEs that have suffered a ransomware attack. How is a ransomware attack performed? The ransomware attack is done either through bot software is written specifically to automatically inject ransomware into a system or systems, or by a human attacker gaining remote access to a computer network via a remote access tool, and then executing ransomware directly on that network. The human or remote control type of attack has become more prevalent in recent times and is particularly dangerous. Where a knowledgeable attacker has remote access to the target network with administrator privileges, the attacker can perform a custom attack based on the attributes of the particular network that they are attacking. For example, they can identify backups, both local and off-site, and seek to delete or encrypt these backups, rendering them useless, making it more likely that the victim organization will need to consider paying the ransom. Prevention. Steps that can be taken to prevent a ransomware attack. 1. Ongoing user education. Ensure that staff are aware of the types of cyber threats that exist and how to recognize them in practice. We can help. 2. Apply security updates to software promptly. Security updates are addressing known vulnerabilities, so don't give attackers a free kick at your network by not addressing these vulnerabilities. We can help. 3. Implement a multi-layered antivirus approach. No single antivirus product should be considered infallible all of the time. Therefore, it is prudent to implement a layered approach. Look for strong ransomware protection in at least one of the products deployed. We can help. 4. Email screening. Effective email screening can identify many hostile emails before they reach the inbox of your staff, thus reducing the risk that you need to rely on the vigilance of staff to recognize a threat. We can help. 5. Use role-based authentication and apply least privilege rules to these roles. Only provide users with the privileges that they need, and no more, to perform a task. We can help. 6. Implement strong authentication rules, including using two-factor authentication, or 2FA. We can help. 7. Password management. Choose passwords that would be difficult for others to guess and then don't update them regularly. If users choose strong passwords, then so long as they are not compromised, there is no need to change them frequently. This approach works best when used with a password manager. We can help. 8. Lock down externally accessible services, such as RDP, where they are not necessary, and enforce secure access restrictions for services that are accessible externally where they are necessary. 9. Backups, your last line of defense. Backups should be considered as a form of insurance against hardware faults that result in loss of data, software faults like bugs that have serious unintended consequences, user errors, physical disasters like flood, fire, malicious events like virus strike, ransomware attack. We can help. Thank you very much for watching. If you would like some assistance with the disaster recovery health check, or you have any other questions, click on the button below to schedule a meeting with a CyberX support engineer.
Now we will have a look at what makes a backup system ransomware safe. If you experience a ransomware attack, the black hats, the hackers, are going to target your data and your backups. The black hats will target your backups because they know from experience that if an organization can't restore the data from their backups, then the victim will be more likely to consider paying the ransom. In a human remote control type of ransomware attack, the following will be targeted by the black hats: your data, that is all your documents, project files, and databases on your servers, your on-site backups, and any off-site backups that are accessible from your servers. The key question that you need to ask is in relation to your off-site backups. If you don't have an off-site backup, then your backup system is not ransomware safe. If you do have an off-site backup, but your off-site backup is accessible from your servers, then your backup is not ransomware safe. A ransomware safe backup is an off-site backup that is not accessible from your servers. I'll repeat that last statement because it is very important. A ransomware safe backup is an off-site backup that is not accessible from your servers. The reason that the backup is ransomware safe is that if the backup is not accessible from your servers, then it won't be accessible to the black hats either. This is a crucial concept to understand. If you're not entirely sure whether you have an off-site backup, or if you know that you have an off-site backup, but you're not sure whether that backup is accessible from your servers, then you need to speak with your IT administrator. Or you can schedule a complimentary remote support session with one of our support engineers to ensure that your backups are ransomware safe and can be relied upon if needed. If you don't find out that your backups are not ransomware safe until after you have been the victim of a ransomware attack, then that will be too late. I'll now show a video which provides an overview of the CyberX backup system and explains how it operates, and demonstrates how the offsite backups are not accessible from your servers, which is why the offsite backups are ransomware safe.
Hello. This is Chloe. In this video, I will explain to you how our backup system works. The CyberX backup system is a managed service. This means that we monitor the backups to ensure that they are performed. We verify your backups, both local and off-site. If an error is detected, CyberX support will investigate and resolve the error. We perform a full system test restore on a daily basis to confirm that your backups can be restored. The email includes a screenshot of the booted system plus a summary of the key restore checks. For example, current image more recent than previous image restored. This makes the CyberX backup system ideal for organizations that don't have a high level of in-house backup or disaster recovery expertise. There are 4 copies of your backup. 2 copies on-site, and 2 copies off-site. The backup system is available for both Microsoft Windows and Linux. In the first step, a backup of your server is performed. This backup is verified immediately after the backup image has been created. If an error occurs during the backup, or the verification of the backup image, or the backup isn't started, or the backup doesn't complete successfully, but no error is generated, we will be notified and a support engineer will investigate and resolve the error. If the backup is completed successfully, this backup will be stored on volume, on Site 1. On a daily basis, all completed backups are copied from volume, on Site 1 to on Site 2. This copy is a push copy, in that the copy is performed by your server. On a daily basis, all completed backups are copied off-site from your premises to CyberX's data center, on Site 2 to off-Site 1. Again, this copy is a push copy, in that this copy is also performed by your server. However, the copy of the backups on off-Site 1 becomes immutable or read-only. The copy of the backups on off-Site 1 cannot be altered or deleted. Immutability makes the copy of the backups on off-Site 1 safe from a ransomware attack. On a daily basis, all off-site backups are copied from the custom accessible volume at CyberX off-site 1 to the custom inaccessible volume off-site 2. In contrast to all previous copies, this copy is a pull copy, in that this copy is performed by a CyberX server rather than your server. In the event that your network is compromised by a ransomware attack, depending on the IT expertise of the attackers, the following backup copies could be destroyed. On Site 1. On Site 2. As the copy of the backups on the off-site 1 volume is read-only and cannot be deleted or changed, this copy will always be safe from the attackers, the black hats. The off-site 2 copy is created by the CyberX server, and each backup image in this backup set is only ever copied once. The fact that the second off-site copy is inaccessible from your network provides an additional level of protection, as the off-site 2 copy of the backup will never be accessible to the black hats. This is why the off-site 2 copy will always be safe from a ransomware attack. The off-site 2 copy of the backup set is verified on a weekly basis. Air-gapped backups. You also have the option of storing copies of your backups on a detached USB 3 drive or NAS. These devices are disconnected from the CyberX network when they are not in use, to provide an additional layer of security. Air-gapped backups provide an additional level of protection, as they are not accessible when they are not connected to the network, which makes these devices even less susceptible to ransomware threats. Recovery options if you experience a ransomware attack. We can restore server volumes to multiple recovery points, that is versioning, we can restore servers into a sandbox environment to perform analysis and remediation. A sandbox environment is an isolated virtual machine in which potentially unsafe software code can execute without affecting network resources or local applications. We can work with your endpoint antivirus vendor, or you can use ours. Thank you very much for watching. If you would like some assistance with the disaster recovery health check, or you have any other questions, click on the button below to schedule a meeting with a CyberX support engineer.
Some key questions to establish whether your backup system is ransomware safe or not. How often do you perform a test restore of your server backups? Best practice is to perform a full system test restore on a daily basis, as this confirms both the integrity of the backup set and that the backup set can be booted. The CyberX backup system includes an automated full system restore on a daily basis, both for Windows and Linux servers. How often do you verify your offsite backups? Best practice is to verify your offsite backups on a weekly basis. The CyberX backup system verifies the offsite backup on a weekly basis. Are your offsite backups read-only? This is also referred to as being immutable. The CyberX offsite backups are read-only. Being read-only makes these copies ransomware safe, as they cannot be altered, deleted, or changed. We will now move to another key risk area, staff training. So, why is staff training important? Because security is not just about software vulnerabilities. Security is also about people, your staff. Countermeasures like antivirus, patch management, email screening, web filtering, all of these will reduce your risk of a breach, and they are all worth doing. But none of these technologies should be considered perfect all of the time, which is why you need a multi-layered approach to security. And staff should be another layer of your cybersecurity defense. And staff will often be your last line of defense. The black hats, the hackers, will target your staff to try and get their security credentials. Or they will try to get your staff to run malicious software to provide them with unauthorized access to your network. Or they will try to get your staff to launch a virus attack inside your network. For example, a ransomware attack. The staff training platform has two components. One, testing. Every month, phishing emails, like the real-life scenario that I mentioned at the beginning of today's session in the second slide, are sent to staff. If staff click on the links in these emails or open any attachments, and they're given immediate real-time feedback on what they should have looked out for, how they could have identified that the email was a scam email. Experience has shown that this approach makes staff more vigilant and more wary about clicking on links in emails or opening attachments. Ongoing testing using real-life day-to-day scenarios has been shown to be very effective at training staff to make smarter choices over time. The second component is training. Every month, staff will be prompted to review an educational video, typically of 5 to 15 minutes duration. These educational videos cover various aspects of security. For instance, not oversharing employer activity on social media, document disposal, and the like. The videos are engaging and provide information in a way that is more likely to be remembered and retained, thus leading to safer cyber behavior. There is a saying, A picture is worth 1,000 words. So let's have a quick look at the training content. At the top, there is featured content. The Inside Man is a popular series. Let's have a look at the preview.
You think this is about money? This is about power. Real power. The power to know how people are going to react before they know themselves. To mold their thoughts, to shape their behavior. The power to bestow great fortunes or take them away. To choose who wins an election, who wins a war. That is real power.
He wants something. He's been buying up firms all across the world, assembling technologies and bits of code.
He wants the algorithm.
So he has to buy a whole company in order to get it.
I could just hack my way into the system, but these days, it's easier to hack humans.
We need your help, Mr. Shepherd. And you may very well need ours.
Help us stop him.
You won't be alone.
We can make a difference if we work together.
Whatever it takes.
Don't move! I said, don't move!
The Inside Man is a Netflix-style series that combines authentic hacking and social engineering scenarios with engaging drama. The series educates your staff on real-world security threats while keeping them entertained. I'll now show you some of the other featured content. There are different types of training content, and there's an extensive range of topics. In the Diamond subscription, there are over 1,500 items of training content. In conjunction with the testing, training leads to better cybersecurity awareness and culture over time. I now want to talk about another key component of cybersecurity, email screening, in a little bit more detail. Whilst both Microsoft 365 and Google Gmail include email scanning, their email systems are missing a couple of key features. The first is the concept of trusted and non-trusted senders, also known as allow lists and block lists. The majority of email threats are going to be sent by black hats, who will be sent by someone that you don't know and or someone who has tried to infect someone else within your organization or another organization previously, rather than a friend or a client or a supplier who is someone that you do know. While it is still possible for a friend to be infected by malware, and then have that malware trawl their address book to try then to infect all of their contacts. The reality is that the majority of email threats will come from email addresses that you don't know. So that means we can use the concept of trust to add intelligence to our email screening. There are three categories of trust. Firstly, the allow list, or the white hats. These are senders who are trusted. These are people, actually their email addresses, that you know. Your friends, family, clients, suppliers, people who your organization engages with. A good email gateway will automatically add people that you send an email to your allow list. The second category is the block list, or the black hats. The black hats are the opposite of the white hats. These are people, again, actually their email addresses, that are not to be trusted. Emails that are sent from an email address that are in the block list will automatically be deleted. Emails that are sent from a blocklisted email address will never reach the recipient. The recipient won't even be aware that a message from a blacklisted sender was sent to them. And finally, there is a third category, unclassified. These are senders that are yet to be classified as either white hats or black hats. They could be a new client or prospect contacting you for the first time, or an external organization sending a promotional email. Or they could be a new black hat email address trying to contact your organization for the first time. The email gateway can use these two categories to refine and improve the screening of incoming emails. Emails from allow listed email addresses are automatically allowed unless there is an explicit threat, for instance, an attachment with a virus, while emails from blocklisted email addresses are automatically blocked. And emails from unclassified email addresses are less trusted than allow listed email addresses, and therefore are more likely to be moved to admin or user quarantine for further review. This brings us to another key feature of an email gateway, message quarantine. An email gateway will perform numerous tests on each incoming email: anti-spam, antivirus, anti-spoofing, and various content checks and the like. Some emails, like those sent by a blocklisted sender or from a blocklisted email server, will automatically be deleted, while other emails, like those sent by an allow listed sender, will automatically be released unless there is an explicit threat. However, messages from unclassified senders may require a human to review before a final determination can be made whether to release or delete the message. Depending on the risk profile of the incoming message, a message could be moved to either admin or user quarantine. A message that is considered risky will be moved to admin quarantine, and that means that the message will be reviewed by an experienced IT admin before a decision is made to release or delete the message. Or the message could be moved to user quarantine, in which case the incoming message will be reviewed by the intended recipient, the end user, prior to the message either being released to their inbox or being deleted by the user. If you find this a little difficult to follow, it will make more sense after you watch the video on email screening and you see how an email gateway works in practice. In today's session, there isn't enough time to cover all 9 keys of cybersecurity in detail. However, I do want to introduce the key cybersecurity features that you should be implementing or at least considering. Another key component of cybersecurity is web filtering. Web filtering is similar to email screening in the sense that both technologies look to block threats before the end user is exposed to them. So, when email screening and web filtering are doing their job, you don't have to rely on staff making smart choices because the technology is screening the threats before they even reach your staff. Many endpoint antivirus solutions include some level of web filtering, because the internet is not only a treasure trove of useful information, the internet is also a minefield of potential risks. But perhaps not surprisingly, a dedicated web filtering solution will have a far more extensive database, content categories and the like, than a non-dedicated antivirus solution that has other roles to perform as well. Web filtering solutions reduce your risk of a cyber breach by preventing users from inadvertently visiting a malicious website when surfing the web. And they do this for a small cost. Today, we have explored 4 of the key cybersecurity topic areas: a ransomware-safe backup system, and we've also had a high-level overview of staff training, email screening, and web filtering. For the remaining topics, there are links to recordings and other resources which you can access at any time that will help you implement a comprehensive cybersecurity plan. I'll leave my contact details on the screen. You're welcome to email me with any questions that you have about today's webinar, or with any of the other resources that I will be sharing with you. If you're not directly responsible for cybersecurity policy within your organisation, but you have found today's workshop useful, please feel free to share the resources with your IT team. If you have found some of the information a bit overwhelming and would prefer to have a one-on-one virtual meeting, you can make an appointment via our website using the link shown on the screen. For those of you who don't have any questions, thank you for your time today. I hope that you found today's session to be of benefit.
Thank you, Vaughan, for sharing your presentation on the ultimate cybersecurity plan for engineers. As always, it's now your turn to get involved. There has been a lot of information shared in this session, and I'm sure that you have questions, and please put them forward because we're here to chat that through. I also want to thank everyone that put forward a question when registering for the event, and we might start off with some of those. And Vaughan, I'll start off with a question that came in from Sundar, who is watching this webinar from Queensland, asking you, Vaughan, what can I do to upskill myself?
Hello, Sundar. You can undertake regular learning or education. Tomorrow, I will be sending an email to all participants who have registered for this session. That email will contain links to recordings and other resources which will help an organisation implement a comprehensive cybersecurity plan. You can use these educational videos and resources as part of your learning journey. You can also encourage your employer to implement staff training for your organisation.
Thank you, Vaughan. Thank you. We've had a question that came in from Karen in Canberra. Good morning to you, asking, Vaughan, what is the end state for software hardening, referencing zero-day exploits? More broadly, is DevSecOps the answer until we realise this approach is proven to be outdated? Thank you, Karen, for that question.
From a software application perspective, security testing at each stage of the software development process is an important component in minimising the risk of software bugs and zero-day exploits. But an organisation's cybersecurity plan should not rely on any single approach or layer. Technology is not perfect, and no technology solution should be expected to be perfect all of the time, which is why an organisation should implement a multi-layered approach to security. For example, email screening, web filtering, patch management, ongoing staff training and testing, to name just a few of the layers. Much like a commercial airplane has multiple levels of redundancy, 2 engines, 2 pilots, and so on, an organization's cybersecurity policy shouldn't rely on any single layer always being perfect to protect them from the black hats.
Thank you, Vaughan. And staying in Canberra, we've got a question come in from Angus. Good morning to you, Angus. Asking you, Vaughan, in my organisation, one of the greatest risks is the insider threat. Members of our organisation that pay off cybersecurity because it won't happen to me. How can we motivate these individuals to change their attitude to cybersecurity? Vaughan.
While people are an organisation's greatest asset, people can also make mistakes. You should involve senior management in the development and implementation of your organisation's cybersecurity plan. A key component of your cybersecurity plan should include ongoing testing of staff, that is the phishing emails that we discussed earlier, and regular training, rather than a run-off training session, which will often soon be forgotten, with staff then potentially going back to their old ways.
Thanks, Vaughan. Thank you. We've got a question, and it's very topical for what's happening, how we're all working differently, ways of working, coming from Louis, who's watching from New South Wales. Louis is asking you, Vaughan, when working from home connected to cloud-based platforms like MS360 Office, how secure is one compared to being in an office environment? Good question. Thanks, Louis.
Ultimately, the answer to this question depends on the cybersecurity countermeasures that are in place at your home office versus what your employer has implemented. For instance, as we explained earlier, Microsoft 365 is missing some key features, whitelists and blocklists, and message quarantine. While there are third-party tools to address these shortcomings, these are much more likely to be implemented by an organization, in my experience, rather than a single user. An organization may also be more likely to have a patch management solution in place. And an organization would also hopefully be using a standard operating environment with least privilege access configured. And ideally, an organization would be more likely to have a ransomware-safe backup system in place. A ransomware-safe backup system is your insurance policy in the event that your cybersecurity countermeasures are breached. A ransomware-safe backup system will allow you to recover your data without having to consider paying a ransom to the black hats. So while all of these countermeasures can be implemented in a work-from-home environment, it would typically require a knowledgeable computer user to do so.
Thanks, Vaughan. Thank you. And a question that's often gone through my mind is the cloud a safe place to store your backup? Vaughan, your views?
The cloud can be a safe place to store your backup, provided that you understand how the cloud is being used. The cloud is like any other tool. Used appropriately, the cloud can be a useful and effective resource. But for instance, a hammer can be used to both build and in the wrong hands to destroy. So ultimately it depends on how a tool is being used. A cloud backup just means that the backup is off-site. But just because a backup is off-site doesn't necessarily mean that the backup is ransomware safe. With the CyberX backup system, by default there are 2 copies of your backup that are stored in the cloud. And both of these copies are read-only, so they cannot be changed or deleted. The fact that these copies are read-only makes these copies safe from the black hats in the event of a ransomware attack. And in addition, only one of these read-only copies is even accessible from your server. So ultimately, it is how the cloud is used that matters.
Thank you, Vaughan. And we have quite a few questions, obviously, around the cloud, and one extending the conversation is coming from James. Good morning, James, asking you, Vaughan, are critical data relies on cloud services like external web host services, Xero, etc. How do we protect our data on these externally provided services?
The CyberX backup system is able to back up servers hosted by Azure and AWS, as well as physical servers. We're not currently providing backup services for Xero or other service providers. But if you're interested, we can investigate your scenario and see if we can assist there as well.
Thanks, Vaughan. Really interesting question that's come in is, Vaughan, what is the purpose of on-site 1 and 2 when you have system hard disk and CyberX is a 24 hours backlog? This implies a huge data loss during a disaster. Vaughan.
On-site 1 and on-site 2 store the on-site backups of your servers. By default, the backup system performs a daily backup of your server. However, you can choose to increase the frequency of your backups, but the trade-off will be that you will have a shorter backup window to restore from.
Thank you, Vaughan. I do have a question as well. I mean, we have covered a lot this morning, and just out of your presentation for our audience, what would be the key takeouts you would like to just reiterate with our audience this morning, Vaughan?
I think the key takeout is that technology isn't perfect, and some of the black hats are technically very capable. So your cybersecurity plan should be a multi-layered approach. You shouldn't be relying on any single technology to protect your business. And finally, staff training is an often overlooked component of cybersecurity. And if all of the technology defenses that you have in place fail, staff will be your last line of defense. So I'd encourage organizations to implement a staff training program.
Thank you. Thanks for that, Vaughan. And just to finish up, obviously, cybersecurity, we're hearing more and more about it, and it's a challenge to a lot of organisations. From, say, looking out to 5 years from now, do you have a positive view, Vaughan, as a subject matter expertise? What's your overall prediction going forward?
Yeah, look, I think the basic principles don't change. There's no doubt that probably with the introduction of AI as a useful tool in terms of composing articles and the like, there will be black hats that will figure out how to use AI sort of to their advantage. In other words, as a black hat tool, which will potentially increase the volume and sophistication of some of the attacks. But that being said, with the tools that we covered in the presentation, like the email screening, the web filtering, they're effective at screening out those threats. And then if you have staff training in place, staff is sort of engaging in the training, staff will be able to recognise the warning signs and take appropriate action.
Thank you, Vaughan. And that is good advice. And AI is another area that we'll be covering a lot in the Thought Leaders series as well. As always, we've run out of time very quickly today, and that is all the time we have for today's session. So please join me in thanking Vaughan Wickham for his time and valuable contribution. I'd also like to thank Engineers Australia's industry partner CyberX for bringing this webinar to you today. We're always looking for areas to grow and improve, and if you could please take 2 minutes to complete a short feedback form, which is linked in the description box below. Thank you again for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you at our next Thought Leaders event. Thank you and good morning.